Good morning, Mark. It's good to be with you.
It is great to be with you. Let's do Harvey relief first. You spent an amazing day yesterday, actually hands-on caring for some of these people, these evacuees. Tell me what your day was like.
Well, this city is still reeling, as is the entire Texas Gulf Coast. Hurricane Harvey was a 500-year storm, and the damage that it did was just devastating. When it made landfall in South Texas, it did enormous. It was Category 4 hurricane. It did enormous damage to Victoria and Rockport and Port Aransas, Corpus Christi. I'm in the truck right now, head down there to visit with local officials and communities and survey the damage. And then, as you know, it went north and it went east, and it just sat over Houston for 5 days, dumping 50 inches of water. And, you know, Mark, you and I, growing up here in Texas, spent a long time. If you're in Texas, hurricanes is part of living in Texas. You get a lot of them on the Gulf Coast. I've never seen anything like this. The rain just kept coming and coming and coming, and the flooding, areas that have not flooded in over a century are underwater. Yesterday I was out in an airboat, driving through residential neighborhoods in an airboat with floodwaters up to the roof. The devastation and just going on and on and on. Entire neighborhoods utterly destroyed. I spent the morning at the shelter at the George R. Brown Convention Center where 11,000 people had spent the night just serving breakfast and trying to help people there. But this city is reeling, but at the same time, we're seeing every day, every hour, every minute incredible stories of heroism, of first responders, of individual citizens stepping up and Texans helping Texans, saving their fellow citizens. It has been inspiring even in the midst of disaster.
And when things happen that are among the worst, we so often see our best here in Texas and neighboring states. These Cajun Navy guys mobilizing airboats from southwestern Louisiana. You can't not love that. Let me ask you about the Brown Convention Center. I hear capacity 5,000. They got double that. Are they all right? Do they need to kind of relocate some of those folks? Is that thing overcrowded?
You know, they are relocating people. They are all right. I mean, they had planned for a capacity of 5,000, but the physical size of the facility is actually quite large. Mm-hmm. And I have been so impressed at the administration of that, and there are a total of 230 shelters around Texas. There are shelters in North Texas and all throughout the state. And the Red Cross is doing many of the shelters. They're moving people to the NRG Stadium, but you know, I have to say at the George R. Brown Center, one of the things that's impressive is just how significant a police presence there is. I mean, everywhere you look, there's law enforcement, there are relief workers, it's well organized, and so we have not had the sort of shootings and potential murders that you can have when you have a large collection of people under enormous stress. And I think that's a testament to how it's been administered so far.
It certainly is. And it has been. And I hope people know that when we talk about a president handling it well, our governor handling it well, the very liberal municipal government of Houston handling it well, we're not trying to scoreboard anybody or say, this just shows you how much everybody sucked during Katrina. We're really not. We're just saying this is how you do it, and maybe it's a lesson for the future.
Well, one of the things that has been really impressive also is the coordination between every level of government. Yesterday I went to the city council meeting where the city council was gathered and was passing emergency measures to deal with the flooding, and I just took an opportunity to thank the mayor, thank the members of the city council. There's a majority Democrats, and yet the city officials are doing a tremendous job, and the city is working hand in hand with the county. You know how rarely that happens outside of disasters. And both are working hand in hand with the state and with the federal government. And in fact, I was sitting alongside Sheila Jackson Lee, who is a very liberal Democrat. She and I disagree on a number of issues, and yet we were quite literally arm in arm because in the face of this disaster, Texans are coming together, and we're standing united. On any other day, there are issues that divide us. But in the face of this devastation, we come together as one, and it makes us much stronger.
Well, there's some folks not on board for that. You're totally right. But boy, oh boy, let me spend a second on the politicization of Harvey. I don't know what some people's problem is. I guess geographically I can figure it out. The Peter Kings and Chris Christie's hammering you and Cornyn and everybody that voted against Sandy relief. Let's just revisit a little history. The no votes there were not because we didn't like the people in the path of Sandy, but because that relief package was loaded with irrelevant pork.
It is a shame that you see people launching political attacks, particularly at a time when people's lives are in danger. I have to admit, I don't have time or interest in worrying at all about those attacks. We're in a time of crisis, and for the past week, I've been in Houston throughout this storm. For the past week, my focus has been working with local officials, county officials, state officials, federal officials, trying to coordinate and mobilize search and rescue assets and getting boots on the ground, getting helicopters and boats and high water trucks to rescue people. We've seen over 7,000 high water rescues. And, the most incredible thing, Mark, has been the hundreds and even thousands of individual citizens who just stepped up and said, I'm going to help my fellow Texan, and went and got their boat and went out on the water. When I was out on the airboat, there was literally a line of boats of people that were just there to search for survivors, to help them, people from all over. I met a group from Oklahoma, I met a group from Fort Worth, met a group from Lubbock. I mean, they come from, as you noted, the Cajun Navy from Louisiana is here. I mean, they've come from all. It's individuals, Texans helping Texans. It's inspiring, and it really, that's what matters right now.
And there are those who would try to paint America with the flashpoint of the loud extremes of Charlottesville. I think it's a much better example to say that America is exemplified by what we're seeing along the Gulf Coast of Texas.
That is exactly right. A few days ago, I was at the Harris County Emergency Command Center, and there's an entire wall covered in Post-its of just individuals that called in and said, hey, I've got a boat, I want to help, and they just had their cell numbers one after the other, and the Emergency Command Center operated essentially as a dispatch center. When people would call in distress, they'd call one of the names on the Post-its and say, all right, your neighbor 6 streets over is in trouble, can you go get him? I mean that's incredible. I was riding around in another boat with a constable from Harris County, and they were saying they would go in to rescue people. A lot of people had already been rescued because just individual citizens had saved their neighbors. It is Texas at its very best.
It's what it's about. In our final couple of minutes, you've been kind of busy. Did you catch any of the president's tax reform appearance in Missouri yesterday?
I'll confess, I saw some headlines and some tweets, but I was out in storm damaged neighborhoods, so I did not have time to watch.
Makes perfect sense. When you are hip deep in water getting people out of houses, it's hard to think about the alternative minimum tax. They give you an overall thing because obviously you're looking at 3 income tax brackets, 10, 25, and 35, cutting corporate taxes. Just your overall overview. Is this the kind of thing that we can really get a legislative W? Everybody talks about putting points on the board. Tax reform seems like the kind of thing that Republicans can actually unify behind.
Tax reform is critical. I think we have to deliver on that. I have said the entire year there are 4 big priorities for this Congress and this administration. They are tax reform, repealing Obamacare, regulatory reform, and appointing and confirming strong constitutionalist judges. This entire year, I've spent virtually every waking moment working on those 4 priorities. We've got to stand up and deliver, and if we don't, I think people are frustrated right now that we're not delivering, and we've got to come together and get the job done. And
to return to what's front of mind, follow Ted Cruz on Twitter at Ted Cruz. That makes sense. And some of his more recent tweets, somewhere at the top, are about Texas hurricane resources, the various organizations you can click onto and help. And thank you for giving us a buzz right there from the Harvey Zone. I know you're a Houston guy, and your roots and heart are so much tied to that community. Much appreciate the update, and looking forward to whenever we talk next.